Hello, beautiful people. We're back again on Street and Cathedral. This is the Major Shodake, and you're welcome on Street and Cathedral this evening. We're here to have our weekly intellectual fellowship, and today's topic is active youth participation on global stage. So I'm going to have my guests. Hello, my brother. How you doing?
Good, good, good. How
Yeah,
about you?
I'm fine, man. I'm fine, man.
Yes,
You
good.
just you chill for me. Let me accept Pauline's too. Pauline is also. I just.
Okay, no problem.
All right. So I'm just waiting for Pauline to, pop up. And you guys are welcome to Street and Cathedral. It's been a while, Alamin. It's really
Yeah,
been a
bro,
while.
it's been a while.
You look like
How
money,
is it?
my brother.
I hope so. I hope so.
Okay. Pauline is saying I don't see your request. You know what? Let me send you another request now, Pauline. I just sent you another one. Would you accept now? If that's okay. Oh, Pauline,
Hi,
finally.
do you hear
Hello.
me?
Hi.
Yeah, yeah.
Great, awesome. Hi,
Okay.
everyone.
Hello.
So let me just run you through the introduction, then we kick off, okay?
Absolutely.
Okay. I will do the introduction based on punctuality. So let me go with no. Allow me. Will you be a gentleman? Ladies first, right?
Yeah, ladies first,
Okay.
actually. Ladies first.
That's all right.
Okay. This is Pauline Batista. Pauline Batista is she's a very good friend, a colleague of mine, someone I respect so much. We met on the platform where via the president, the government of Angola, ISESCO, UNESCO, African Union, and Pauline, you don't know this, but I'm gonna give a topping to your introduction.
Okay.
Pauline is a global media expert, and
Okay.
trust me, we bidded for the same post when the UNESCO, then the Angolan government told us that we should submit everything and everything UNESCO platform. So
Yes.
I bidded for that your post as well. You know the funny thing, my profile, I think it was encouraging to those people that were actually scrutinizing us. So they reached out to me that I should choose a lesser position than the one I was vying for. I was stubborn. I was like, no, I want that position. So finally, Pauline got the position. So
Wow,
I
I
was of
didn't
the
know that. That's
I was
crazy.
I wanted to know the profile of the lady who beat me to, I just wanted to know. So when
The
I went to check
drama.
when I went to check your profile, trust me, hands down, I was like, no, she wants it. I gave this hands down. So Pauline's profile is laudable, is so inspiring. She's a global media expert. Her voice is recognizable. She's from Brazil. But one thing so fascinating about Pauline is her happy spirit, the spirit for her to connect with people, and her story. I'm very sure she's going to share it on this platform. She's an intellectual colleague that I respect so much. Her voice is global. And Pauline, you are welcome officially on board.
Thank you so much. I'm really excited. Wait, should I talk a little bit now, or should we just wait for the next introduction and then we
Yeah,
start?
wait for the next introduction, and I'm just going to throw you the.
I'm waiting. Thank
Okay,
you. My
okay.
sister is here. My sister is watching this, so this is really
Oh, big shout out to her. Big shout out. That's you see, that's family supporting family.
yes.
So on my left hand here is Alamin Ishaq. You see, Alamin Ishaq is someone whose voice is global, and I would also permit me to use Pan-African oriented voice as well, because you see, Alamin is an IT expert, but he's someone who doesn't limit himself to that field. He's someone who is involved in humanistic, endeavor. As you can see that he's on transit right now. He's traveling from one state in Nigeria to another state to actually go
Wow.
dialogue with the governor of Katsina State, right? If I'm right.
Yeah,
The
yes,
governor of
yes, correct.
Katsina State. So
Yes.
Alamin is that big. When I mean big, I mean it with all sense of humility. And I was finding the perfect voice to come on this topic. And trust me, you both of you are the perfect voice for this topic, because
Right.
I wanted I wanted the global approach and the Pan-African approach as well. And those people that have traveled far and wide, and both of you have that boxes ticked all the way down. So Alamin, you're welcome on board. Excuse me, guys, if I'm not going into details of your profile. Trust me, we are going to need another different program for that. Your profile are just too cumbersome for this kind of program. So you're welcome
We are
officially.
trying. We are trying.
So
so
let me
much.
welcome you to my space. Then we kick off with the topic at hand. This is Street and Cathedral, and as a proper African child, it's just like when you come to my house, I'll show you around. And this is Street and Cathedral. This space is created in order to actually bear in mind that the official statistics states that half of the population of Africa are under the age of 20, as it stands right now. And if we look into the in-depth analysis, we see that the level of coordination and awareness of the continent amongst young people has really improved over time. So scholars are saying by the turn of the century, Africans will be 40% of the world's population. Well, on current projection, we could see that probably half of the world's population by the middle of the next century as well. And so there is need for us to focus on the training of this generation towards national consciousness, global mentality, because the survival of the continent depends on this. And both of you will agree with me that African leadership is tougher as it stands, and we must pay the price. So what better platform can we also use if we are not using our social media to engage youth in this intellectual sensitization, awareness, and pushing our message forward for them to actually tilt towards the right thing to do. So the topic at hand is active youth participation on global stage. So this is where I take a deep breath, because and like I said, Alamin is on transit. I'm sure he's going to join back.
Oh yeah, we lost him. We lost him. It's okay. We'll continue.
So, okay. All right. So Pauline.
Yeah.
Let me throw this question forward to you, and this question is more like a personal question, and I want millions of African youth to resonate with your story.
Of course.
There is this thing going on right now. Yeah, Alamin, you're welcome back. Yeah. I'm just starting with the question.
Yeah. Okay.
So this question is for Pauline. So Pauline, you have an impressive. Are you with me?
Yeah, I'm here. Do you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
For whatever reason, I froze. Yes, sorry.
You have an impressive portfolio, but I want to believe that it has not been smooth sailing all through. So overcoming challenges, because that's one of those things that we want to tell youth, overcoming challenges for you to now become a global voice. I will just put the question very simple. What's your story, Pauline? People want to actually know that you didn't just get there. Like, what is your story?
I appreciate that. Okay. So first and foremost, I think the first observation that I had to make here is that I am originally from Brazil. I am a person of African descent. As you know, Brazil is a country that has over 200,000 people. Our population is 56% of African descent. And actually, it's so interesting because I took a DNA test not too long ago, a few months back, to kind of understand, because, during the process of enslavement of Africans, that's how I kind of, came into the picture. But we don't really have much history. We don't really have much of a connection with our origins. And I wanted to learn. So I took a DNA test, and, I was, mostly like Bantu, most Congolese. That's kind of where I, come from. And that's why I was part of the Biennale of Luanda with UNESCO. That's how we met. And I think that my story is very similar to every story of all people, of African descent. And in talking with African youth, even in Angola, I heard there's a lot of intersections, because when you think about the global scenario, when you think about Brazil, typically the representation is not of African descent, is of European descent when it comes to like diplomacy and global youth and stuff like that. So it's very unusual. Now, thankfully, we have more of a representation of, people of African descent in those spaces. And I'm very fortunate to be one of those people. The challenges are, they resonate with, African youth and people of African descent across the Americas, which is pretty much poverty is one of them, right? It's the barriers that you have. And I come from that. I come from poverty. I don't come from wealth. And if you have your eyes on the prize and you want to make it to the global stage and you want to have a global voice, you have to start in the community. I started in the community. I started doing a lot of community service. I started teaching. I got a scholarship and I learned English when I was a teenager. And I started teaching fellow, youth of African descent to speak English for free. And then my work in the community got noticed and it was brought to a national level. When I was only 12, I was sent to the capital of my country to meet the president and to meet the minister of environmental affairs. And it was so crazy to me because it was very overwhelming. That was 20 years ago.
Wow.
20 years ago. And it doesn't look like that, right? I look like I'm 18, but I'm not. So that kind of, and of course, I went to public school and I come from a favela. Favela is a slum. It's I mean, there's many versions of a favela. Whenever you see people from Africa or people for African descent, like I studied many times without electricity, without power, and that was the challenge. Poverty was the number one challenge, and number two, once you kind of start to like enter those spaces, I guess the second challenge is access. Because even though sometimes you're given a scholarship and you're part of, whatever the conversation, but then there's limited access, right? So it's like you really have to carve out access and you really have to have mentorship because historically, if you don't come from wealth as a person of African descent, you don't really have access to those spaces and you don't know how to navigate them. So you have to identify mentors who will help you navigate. You don't go to the left, you go to the right, so it's kind of access was another challenge. And I would say that, I guess once you're in the groove and you're overcoming so much, right? And again, reflecting my story, you don't quite pause to appreciate what you're doing or appreciate how far you've come. So really that like education that oftentimes people of European descent, people from Europe kind of have historically, they have that, that family tradition of like being able to breathe and be like, you're doing well, you're doing what you're supposed to, like, and families of people from African descent, like we quite don't have that unless you come from like the elite, which in Brazil.
Okay, Pauline, I might have to
Go ahead.
propose you there, and because I will take that as your opening speech, and that is powerful. I pen down start in the community and access. Those are very powerful words.
Yes.
And Alamin, this is to you now. This same question to Pauline, but I'm going to come in a different dimension with you.
Okay.
Alamin, we're talking about overcoming challenges to for youth to participate in global stage, because most people see us now and they say maybe we got lucky, they try to. So the social and economic barriers, political marginalization, and limited access, just like Pauline just said, the limited access we have maybe to education that is stifling voices in young Africa. What is your story? How have you been able to surpass all that and become this Alamin right now that you are currently on transit to go see the governor of Katsina and you've gone global? What is your story,
Okay.
Alamin?
I'll try and be brief, but Pauline has actually stated most of the things that I wanted to say. And one of the key things I need to point out is there is a lot of information that people miss out on, especially of people of African descent, because I believe there are so many opportunities out there for youth to actually show what they can do in terms of, okay, we are planning to do this kind of project, we're planning to do this kind of project, but people are not even aware that there are so much funds out there for climate, for carbon credits. People are not aware of all those kind of things. But adding to what Pauline stated about marginalization and maybe coming out of a family of wealth, out of family of poverty, it's kind of very difficult, especially for African people of African descent. So I believe if we can, people of Africa can be able to navigate through these challenges, it starts actually from you personally.
Did you have to navigate through those
Of
challenges,
course,
or you've
of
always come
course.
from the have you always come from the right? Because people want to know, and that's the reason why I'm pushing it to you, in your own words. What is your story? People want to
Okay.
know the Alamin, because they just feel like maybe he's from the right wing and he has always been like Pauline said,
Okay.
has been the elite. Did you come from the
Okay.
elite family, or you also
I
had to
will,
overcome all these struggles and
yeah,
everything?
I had to, and one of the highlights of my career was when I did my undergraduate. I did my undergraduate at Ahmadu Bello University. It was one of my moments that I can never forget because it was so tedious. The major you
Yeah,
are aware of how the
yeah,
educational sector
yeah.
is in Nigeria. We had to study like they ask us questions that has never been taught in class.
Mm,
The lecturers are always trying to fight you. You study without electricity. You have bad roads. You have to travel several miles, a distance to cover 10-kilometer distance. You travel for 50. You spend almost 2 hours just to travel that distance. So you see the kind of time you even waste to transport yourself from one place to another has already been wasted. So a lot of those challenges, and
mm.
that's one of the highlights of my career. I mean, when I was at undergraduate at Ahmadu Bello
Okay.
University.
Both of you, thank you for saying this, because I want the African youth listening to this right now to know that they can actually do it. A
Yeah.
lot, you know what I'm talking about. A lot is actually plaguing the African continent right now, and I'm trying to bring intelligent friends like you on board. I want them to see that it's possible, that we are alive and we are doing well. And if we could actually pass through this fire, they can also walk through it. And the media business these days are selling different perception that is also endangering propaganda. And that moves us to the next question, Pauline. I said media, and that moves us to digital revolution. So I wrote this down. I said digital technology has blurred geographical boundaries, giving
Yeah.
access to information and communities across the globe. But at the same time, are these really being explored when we come to the African descent society community? Is this actually functioning on the proper side as expected, on the positive side, or it is having, I don't know, I just, what I mean, this digital revolution, are we exploring it in the African community for the right purpose, for the right use? So Pauline, jump in before Alamin also do justice to that question.
Great. Great. Thanks. I mean, I love this because I am a media person. That's my, playground
Yeah.
in a sense. Yeah, I started making documentaries really young, and then one thing led to the other, and then I became a professional media person who works in different international organizations, which is, I'm very grateful for that. I think that the more I monitor and the more I have access to like big channels, I'm talking like accounts that have, millions of impressions of engagement, like the more I look at that, is that oftentimes a post about a really relevant topic, for example, even when it does reach people, it's complex because it's like, okay, what now? We see that this is happening. We see that this is a problem. We see that, so what now? Like, how can we use that to either become part of the conversation or to get inspired and then, look at our own communities and make change? Because I say that to say that sometimes, yeah, and people in the North can post something and people from the South will only engage with it in a very limited manner because we can only do what we can. So, for example, growing up in a space where, yes, we received content, but we didn't really have the means to. I mean, sometimes I personally like. There's people out there who have no access to
Yeah.
internet. It's
Yes.
Yeah.
very
Yes.
in the global
Yes.
South is very common. Like even when you think production of content, like depending on where you're producing the content, you have to really think about that and be sensitive because sometimes you'll be writing about Sudan and people in Sudan will not be able to read what you're writing about them,
Yeah.
right? And so what are the implications of that? That is a real problem. There's a lot of global crisis going on right now, but right now I feel like the stories are more so being told for the North.
So, from your experience, this is me putting you on the spot now. From your experience so far as a
Yeah,
global media expert, do you really think that uh, Africa as a continent suffer more
yeah,
of these things we're talking
yeah.
about? Do they suffer more of this plague compared to the Western world?
Yeah, I mean, there's no question about it because think about it. Like, we produce content to the people who will be able to read it, and who will be able to read it, who have access to internet. You know, it's the people who have means and who have wealth and who have access. The people who I was just talking my first question, right? So the way I guess we're producing media content is still very much westernized for the global north. I feel like there's often like 1 second, hold on.
Absolutely.
My assistant is biting on a
Okay.
toy. She's here. I think that there's definitely that limitation, right? That is a huge limitation. And again, when we think about it, like we have amazing content creators from African countries, you know. But even then, even them, like when they get really big, what happens to them? They get taken to the north, and you know they get absorbed by like the western, and you know it's like there's all these amazing kids from different African countries dancing to, you know, get becoming viral, but like who's looking at what's really happening to their lives? Are their lives changing? Like, are they benefiting from the engagement? Are they just being absorbed by the north and the west? So it's a really delicate topic to talk about. Like, in conclusion, yes, Africa, you know, African countries are still impacted by the digital divide because historically African countries have had less access. I'm putting it in a really diplomatic way, you know?
Okay. Yeah, yeah, I appreciate that. So, Alamin, I'm going to
Yeah.
mention some names right now. We
Okay.
have Greta Thunberg, Julius Malema, Bobby Wine. And now let's talk about digital revolution as it's sweeping across Africa. And at the rate at which things are going, we can hear from what Paulina said, you know,
Mm-hmm.
from her expertise. Do you really think this media and
Mm-hmm.
putting forward what is going on in Rwanda,
Mm-hmm.
Rwanda having access control to what is, the internet use and all.
Yeah.
So, what would you say as the, exploitation and exploration of the digital revolution that is going on in the globe? How
Okay. So
African youths are reacting towards it? Are we also engaging it for proper use and all? You're an IT
so
personnel, so that's where I'm
yeah,
coming
yeah,
from.
yeah.
From
Yes.
more critical
So
perspective too.
before I kind of talk about that perspective, I would love
Okay.
to say we the of African descent need to actually rewrite history, because if you notice, most of us are not aware of our history. Our history has been cleared. I mean, not cleared, but we are not aware of our descent. I mean, Paulina just stated that she had to go back to her ancestors to actually know, okay, she's from this descent. And this is one of the major problems we are having. We don't know our history. So it's the history that I mean, I'm sorry to say, the Westerners are using, or whoever is using, to actually kind of manipulate us, especially the Africans. Have you ever seen people of the United States being manipulated in maybe religion or tribe? It doesn't happen,
Mm.
because they already know their history. But it always happens. It always happens in Africa, Rwanda, even in Nigeria. It's even happening because we are not aware of our history. So I believe to solve these kind of issues, we have to first know our history. We have to first know our history, and then we kind of maybe reduce the impacts on that. And then secondly, in terms of digitalization, most of these social media channels, I'm talking of the technology point of view, they have their missions. I mean, a business like TikTok cannot be functioning without impressions. So TikTok is just there for the impressions. So anything that's going to bring impressions is what will keep TikTok, Instagram, and whoever is in business. I'm talking of the technology point of view now. So as long as Instagram or TikTok or whatever media channel is in existence, they always try to monetize that. And when they monetize it, the people who end up maybe utilizing that venture is the users. So they kind of create content that will bring a lot of engagement on those platforms. So it's not just about the media channels. It's not just about digitalization. It's about what is being sent out there, because as simple as posting something bad on Instagram or maybe sending something, it can trigger a war in another country. And this is
Which
what's
which happened of recent? Yeah.
yes, yes,
Yeah, it's
several
you have
cases,
you have
several
a
cases.
valid. In a related environment, I'm going to ask you a question, but you do precisely. This is me putting you on the spot.
No
I've put Pauline on
problem.
the spot, so this is me
Yes,
putting you on the spot as an IT
yes,
personnel.
yes.
I want you to tell me why OPE failed
Hmm.
in Nigeria. At some point in time, OPE was actually moving. You know OPE, right? We have
Of
the
course, of course.
OPE rides,
Yes,
OPE bike, and
yes,
it was
yes.
actually moving well. And for some reasons, we were having hope that, okay, apparently IT business, is coming to stay and trying to, make life better for people. Because then I could see that people are actually gravitating towards making it. So why did that platform fail? Was it the government policy stifling it? Are you with me? Oh,
I think he may be in transit.
he escaped that, but I'm still gonna put him on the spot. So let's move
That
to
was
the
so
next one.
crazy, right? I was like, I'm gonna put you on the spot. The internet was like,
the,
perfect.
the,
I
the,
love it.
the internet saved him. So while I'll keep that question for him, because that's actually one of those things I want to know from him as an IT person. So let's move. Let's move. Pauline, honestly, this is me now asking you, like, I opened this conversation to, letting you know the statistics that states that half of the population of Africa are under 20. That is an energetic and vibrant continent, if you would ask
Yeah,
me.
absolutely.
What is the promise of youth engagement? What do you think can be actually, initiated in order to actually engage this vibe, the energy that is already predominant across the continent?
Yeah. I mean, I feel like, yeah, that's one of the things that brought me to, like, it made me really emotional, right? When I had the chances that I had to go to different African countries and kind of reconnect with youth. You're right. There's this amazing vibrancy, this spirit, this eagerness, right, to share and to create new narratives for Africa, and to elevate the conversation and to show we're here. We're amazing, and we want to take over. I think that what needs to happen is that the North and the West need to get into need to really get their hands dirty in terms of, like, I know that this word is controversial, reparations, but I'm going to use it here for this context. You need to really enable and provide this youth with more incubator programs, with more opportunities. Hey, you know what? I've seen that, for example, just to mention UNESCO, that's something public. UNESCO had an incubator program with Netflix, for Sub-Saharan youth to produce documentaries. Yes, it's beautiful to have a program like that, but we need 100. We need 200. There's too many different people. It's really unfair to have like one program, only. You have to have 50 programs like that, because the youth in Africa is abundant, is powerful, is beautiful. They have a lot what the world needs to learn. And to go back to what we're slightly touching on before, like, we need to learn our own histories, and we won't do that unless we truly give the tools that youth today needs to, number one, reconnect with that story, and number two, turn it into something new and really get to those new narratives of Africa we've been aiming for, right? So really, the people who have the wealth and who have the access now need to make a bigger effort
You
to
know,
provide
you
youth
know,
with what they need,
you know what I like about you. You know what I like about your tone. I could sense that you are really passionate about Africa.
Yes,
Honestly,
yes.
I could sense that. Alamin, are you back? Are you back? Is your network back? Can you hear me? Oh, you keep running away from me, Alamin. You keep running away from me. Oh,
Yeah, I think my
okay.
Yeah,
internet
it's
is kind
Yeah.
okay.
of
Keep going.
fluctuating much. It's not
Okay.
really good.
Alamin, can you hear me?
I think we're losing him. I mean, he's in transit. It's okay.
Okay, so I'm moving on. Pauline, I stated down the works of Malala Yousafzai.
Yes.
Who talked about the paradigm shift of intersectionality.
Yes.
So now you've touched it already with your last conversation, but now let's move into the activism spirit from diverse perspective of how the world is experienced. And
yes.
I love the way you said that. In nutshell, what you're saying is it is unfair to bring one narrative, one perspective about Africa when we have diverse people, and that is more like stereotyping on the media because they are black, they should have a collective story. That is stereotype. That is one creating one story. So now, what do you think at this point in time could be the paradigm shift in line with the work of Malala Yousafzai that I just said? And what I love the way you say you could create 50, but I want you to also give us a paradigm shift. You speaking to the African youth right now, and also probably the authorities.
Yes. Well, stemming from the very example you gave right now, Malala is an amazing, great success story, right? In a way, but again, what I just told you happened to her. She got, in a way, her whole. She has an enterprise, not an enterprise. She has a really big nonprofit, right? They're based here in the United States, where I'm speaking from right now. That's an example of someone who got, in a way, absorbed by the West. I feel like the West and the North, for that paradigm shift to truly happen, youth in Africa, like number one, two things. They need to keep energized and, empowered to keep producing content, to keep telling their stories, to keep screaming who they are. And the West and the North need to listen.
And I know you might not be the right person to answer this. I'm just asking. It could be a rhetoric. Do you really think it's fair to put your faith in the hands of others to listen to? Did you get me my diplomatic question in that way? I'm trying to be very diplomatic.
But yeah, it's not fair. But the problem is that oftentimes when we're trying to revisit narratives about Africa, we think of an ideal future. I'm talking about now.
Okay.
Sadly, now that's the only way we can get our stories heard. We need to make alliances or connections with those who have the tools. It's very bad, because it's not sustainable to think that a child in Luanda, in a context of poverty, will make it with only a cell phone and a dream. Because as someone who works in media, my God, several people in poverty have made viral videos, but only those with management have been able to get out of poverty. Does that make sense? Yeah, people, it's really subtle, it's really delicate, but sadly, this is the real world, not the ideal one. In the ideal world, we can go crazy with it, and we can just, no. Sadly, that's the reality we live in today. I see a lot of youth with viral videos. Are they out of poverty because of one or two viral videos? No, they're out of poverty because of management. Because sadly, the game that we have to play was not created by us or for us. So now we're living a time in which we still have to create alliances and be strategic, about how we go about, content production and media and etc.
Okay. Alamin, you're welcome back. Okay, you won't run from it. You won't.
Thank you. Sorry for the. No. I
joking.
wanted to answer your question about Obi, but
I thought you ran away
my
from because I
internet
said
was
I'm going to
saying
put you
no,
on the
you
spot, and
cannot.
you're just like, I'm going to freeze. So Alamin, as an IT person, just be direct. Why did OP fail?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
So it wasn't government
think they
policies are
failed
stifling them
because
out of
they didn't
business?
understand the market. A government policy was part of it, but there's something with the Nigerian market that is making people think it's very easy to navigate through. But it's when you start
So I'm
whatever
asking this
you're doing
question
that
because
you
I'm
understand
asking this
that
question
it's one
because
of
you're
the
an
most
IT
complicated
person, and I
markets in
can
the world.
see that you're having good
So
relationship. I don't let me say good relationship. You're having
yes,
a relationship with the people in government. So I'm trying to put you on the spot. That how has it been? Has it been more of like we want to share?
yeah.
I know you might not be direct, but we want to cut into the business. We want to share. If you are going to come and
No. But
stay, then what is our
yes,
percentage? Because we know the high rate of corruption going on in Nigeria and in Africa or Nigeria as a whole. So, and that could not be encouraging some youth who are startups and trying to also, diversify into this IT business. So how has it been, Alamin?
yeah. So for let me go back a bit. So Ope have kind of um, piloted into other kind of businesses. I mean, they are still in business, but they are more focused on the fintech part of their business now, fintech arm of their business. So when you look at how they are operating now, they are more focused on fintech because that's where their strength is now. Instead of unlike how they started when they started with the ORIDE, the OWELS and stuffs like that. So now it's more about the fintech and then every other thing below the fintech. So like the fintech is kind of the umbrella arm of the business. So every other thing is under the fintech. So and you know how complicated it is when you are running a business in the financial sector in Nigeria with all the regulations, all the licenses, So I think OPE are doing well, but in general terms, it's the ease of doing business, as they say, it's not really easy in Nigeria. I believe it's not really easy because you have to either bring in investors from certain countries,
But
but
that's what Pauline
that's
said before
not
you
how
came.
it's
But in
supposed to
another
be. We
context,
need
I'm
to
going to
be
give you.
the
She
ones
said
investing in
the real
ourselves.
world and the ideal world. So
Yes,
sadly, our reality
yes. People
is
invest in themselves instead
Jesus
of,
Christ.
yeah,
I don't want to say what our reality is just it's unbelievable compared to what is supposed to be ideal. And the reason
yes,
why I'm putting you on the spot, I'm not trying to let you offend any authorities because I've brought people on board. I brought
exactly.
Jaffa on board who talked about double taxation in businesses. How
No, it's fine.
some government policies has been frustrating businesses, and these are you that are also trying also to contribute. SMEs are part of those things that, and there's no way you do all these businesses that you don't also
Yes,
navigate through the use of the IT and digital revolution that we've been talking about. So exploring that for the purpose of business and
exactly.
policies are coming in place in order to frustrate you out of business, it is we shooting ourselves in the leg. So where does the development come? Are we going to hang
It's
ourselves in developing, or
difficult.
because we want
Yeah,
to keep
yeah,
collecting what's it called, funds from IMF? Well, don't let me go too emotional because when I go into policies and governments, I could just be so blunt. But since I have my very good friends here,
yeah.
and I'm going to ask you, I asked Pauline a question and she did justice to you. So I'm not going to have repeat that question to you. She
Yeah.
did justice to the paradigm of intersectionality,
Okay.
and that's well coming from Malala Yousafzai, and she
Okay.
answered that well. So let's move to educating and empowering through youth programs. And one of those things that have been on the plan on the continent was by African Union so far is silencing the guns. And we have AFTA also. Have we be exploring? Yes.
Yeah.
So and we have this European Union, which
A
I
free
think Pauline should be
continental
also
area.
conversant with, which is the Youth Empowerment Program by the
Free
European Union.
trade area.
So
Sorry.
how can we initiate educating and empowering youth programs in order to actually change these narratives for the positive angle or towards the positive angle? Yeah, now this time before your internet
You've already
glitch,
started,
please. I think Alamin should go
Dimeji.
first. Pauline, can you just chill for Alamin to go first before we lose, before we lose him?
Go for it.
Okay.
Take the floor. The floor is yours.
Yeah. Okay. Yes. So I believe the digital the social media is one medium we could use, and you know, as you rightly know, where we met, the APLP, it's one of the most important things. I mean, it's one of the best programs that I attended, you know. So if we can have replica of things like that, so you can imagine, apart from the Mandela Washington, the Yali West Africa, the APLP, I mean, we need replica of those things run by Africans, um, participated by Africans, everything by Africans. We need to have these things by ourselves. We don't need curriculum or information from other parts of the world. You know, this is for ourselves. We need to build people by ourselves. This is our country. This is our continent. You know, so I believe if we can have programs like that to sensitize youth on things going on around Africa, sensitize youth on their history, sensitize youth on how to build themselves. You know, I think we can start from that and actually build on that. But we need support from the people above us. You know, the federal government, the states, the continental
Okay,
government. You
Pauline,
know, so I
before you
think the
jump in, I was
sensitization, the
listening to
awareness is
this
one of the most
Strive
important things.
Masiyiwa. Strive Masiyiwa is a billionaire from Zimbabwe. And I want to believe you've also traveled across the continent for a while now. You've noticed some changes over some time, however slow it has been. And as those changes also be improving. So I'm asking you this question because you are the best person who can actually juxtapose and compare the European society to the staggering growth we are experiencing, or whatever you call it, because you have a balanced view of what the two worlds. So I want you to come in that aspect and tell us the proper programs you feel that can engage African youth towards the positive angle of development and personal growth. I well, we can tell you. I think you're mute. Just on mute, please.
Okay, can you hear
Yeah,
me?
yeah.
La
I think
la
you're
la la.
muted.
Okay, great. I think it's so tough because, yeah, for example, through youth programs, I have like stayed in 7-star hotels. Yes, people. Some people don't realize that in the continent of Africa, there are 7-star hotels. People don't think about that.
Preach, sister, preach.
Like, yeah, are you
Absolutely.
kidding? This is crazy. And, through youth programs, think tanks, there's so much, I mean, but let's kind of go to what I saw in the sub-Saharan region, you know, even in Angola, for example. I go back to that example because it's something familiar to, to the program that we were part of. Even the hotel where the event was happening, like the hotel was just, oh my gosh, 5-star, amazing. When people think about African countries and the continent, they don't really think about that. But my question to you is, who's having access to that? Even if I see the change happening, high tech, like I visited some universities in Morocco that were like, people in the West don't have that technology yet. It's like amazing. It's like a beautiful, it's like, yeah, the change is happening. Absolutely. The region of Benguela in Angola is like California in the United States. But who is having access to that? I think that it's more, on my part, is more of a question than a resolution. How can we make, these high tech, amazing spaces in African countries accessible to the local youth? How can we ensure that at large people from Africa are benefiting from those spaces, right? Like, for example, in Morocco, and again, to go back to that, there is one of the top schools, if not the top school of coding, is in Morocco. But the selection process for the students to make into that school is really tough. Like, for example, like it's really tough, and oftentimes, who's going to be able to get in? Are the people who historically have been going to those great schools, or is the underdog? Yeah, sometimes you may have an underdog who's studying with a candle, like I did before, with a candle and looking through the books and studying and just like have that mentality of like going and getting. But at large, systematically, who's benefiting from high-tech Africa? You know, you start with that real question. And how can we make sure that the youth, I know I have friends who have done YALI, the program, you know, Obama even is, and again, a connection to the West in a way, not in a way, very much so. I guess whoever's running those initiatives and the nonprofits and like the NGOs who are thinking about, you know, creating those initiatives, it's like, okay, the future of Africa already exists. The changes are here, but who's benefiting from those changes, and what can we make to ensure these programs and initiatives are more accessible at large?
Mm, 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 mm. You guys are fantastic. Honestly, you have hit the nail on the head, even where I don't expect the nail will be hitted. You did justice to the topic, honestly, and this is not just me and trying to push your leg. And I'm going to add a little, you know, to the conversation going on. Then we call it a wrap. I always have a final question for my, you know, for my guest. That we call it a wrap because it's 1 hour and it's strictly 1 hour. You see, this active youth participation on global stage, I resonate with stories because I also come from the underdog, to per se.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, I come from the most disadvantaged end, and I used to say that I want a time to go back. You know, the slim tunnel I passed through. I want to have the opportunity to go widen that slim chance to make it wide so more African children can pass through. I'll give you one of my experiences that I had. My friend and I created an NGO. We called it Education with Purpose. So we went grassroots because, trust me, there is gross inequality, a yawning gap between the urban kids and rural kids in Africa. And Alamin, you can bear me witness. Pauline, I mean, it is injustice. It is inhumane.
Absolutely.
It is crazy gross inequality. So we started seeing these kids from rural settings. When they see their colleagues, naturally they feel intimidated, they feel inferior. And this has nothing to do with anything materialistic. I'm talking about even intellectual capacity. You know, just meeting with you that you've drawn at the urban setting. And you're right, Pauline, when you say, wow, having access to all these things. So when you come to a society like I am, UK, you're in the US, you see that they created a society where even you can't tell the difference between a child who grew up in the rural setting and the urban setting. And we need to also make that. And I love when you said we're having access to this. Because if we come from the disadvantaged end, we know one thing for sure, that could be us. So
Yeah.
when I see those kids, I always tell myself that could be me. So I love that fantastic angle you came from. And Alami, it's an amazing thing you're doing. I know it's not easy to push those narratives you're pushing in Nigeria, most especially. It's an amazing thing you're doing. So my final question to you both.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
before I throw this final question, I want to say thank you. And I want to say you don't mind the participation of, this is one of those things we're talking about, engagement. I'm very sure if this was a twerking video or whatever, we're gonna have more engagement. But what I've realized so far when I started this Street and Cathedral is whenever I put my podcast on Spotify, I always have very, very good engagement. And once I leave it on my wall for a few days, I see people like it. So I feel people just like to, you know, these egocentric people, they don't want me to see them joining. They just like to listen when it has been posted. So that being said, let's go to the final question. And this is it. I always ask, let us project 10 years ahead. What do you think is coming for the African youths? To be honest, and I want you to come from the angle of apparently your choice. Don't let me tell you what to do. But what do you see 10 years coming? Are things going to get better? Are African youths going to tilt towards the positive end, or things are going to get worse? Your view, honestly, 10 years from now, what do you project? So Pauline, go first then. Oh, you don't want to be a gentleman again?
Okay.
You see,
Okay, Pauline, you can.
do you know what the big
Maybe
we know
she
what the
can go
biggest
first.
complicator now it is for, you know, people in African countries? Climate. So 10 years from now, it's not, I mean, it's also going to be a matter of access and money, right? But to me, the biggest complicator is climate, because the wealthier countries, they'll come up with solutions to stay at it as much as they can, because so if we can overcome the challenge of climate, I think 10 years from now, I want to be optimistic that African youth will be taking over more and more and more. I want to be optimistic. But due to the challenges of climate, like you see floods in Mozambique, like, was it last year? Like,
Yes.
it was insane. It was insane. So to me, my biggest concern right now is that the challenge of climate will really be, in addition to historically, what has affected the African youth, other inequalities, etc., etc. The challenge of climate for African countries will be an even bigger thing. If we can survive to that, I mean, the talent, the will, the desire, the intelligence, the brilliance of African youth is nothing can hold, African youth, honestly.
Oh,
But but we have that issue. We have the issue of climate, and we have, I mean, because the issue of access, I think, over time could be less and less, right? If you do an optimistic projection, we can project them having more access and having an even bigger, voice. But the challenge of climate is something that deeply concerns me. Do you know why? Because in the West, quick comparison to close my remarks. In Mozambique, you have the floods. I mean, in Sudan, I mean, you name it. African countries are tackling different climate-related crises that are killing thousands right now, number one. But when you look at, for example, Miami here in Florida in the United States, the wealthy have already started building floating mansions. So do the climate, I've seen it with my own eyes. Nobody told me. I've seen it. You drive through Miami, they're already experimenting with floating mansions. So meaning, if the polar ice melts and the climate becomes even more severe, there will be,
so the house is just floats, and oh Jesus.
you know what I'm saying? So to me, that's why it's eminent that we talk and we focus on the issue of climate. People are talking about climate as it's like a cute little thing that doesn't belong to you. No, 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 no. We have thousands of children in African countries dying because of floods and because of severe droughts. In the north of Brazil, there's droughts too. In fact, my family migrated to the south of Brazil because of drought. So it's like that's my biggest concern. But in terms of the actual youth of Africa, oh my God, in no time, you said it before, 40% of the world will be African.
All right. Thank you for that. That was a brilliant project. So, Alamin, can you jump in? What's your projection in the next years?
Yeah. So my projection in 10 years, I believe, is African youths are going to take over. And I hope, I'm also going to be optimistic, it's going to be a positive takeover, because not the kind of takeover where we have TikTok influencers managing the resources of the country
Okay.
That was a
or
good
the
one.
nation. So I hope, yes. So that's one thing I'm afraid of for the future of youth in Africa, because I believe, as some youths are trying to build themselves and trying to build stuffs, others are trying to be dancing in front of the cameras. So I believe and I hope, I'm still trying to say that I am optimistic that, because you saw what recently happened in Kenya. The youths were angry. They were coming out of everywhere to
And they
to, to
even
ask
demand for the
to
president,
to
for
to
the
question
president
their
to
leaders, to question
resign
the
and all. Yeah.
politicians. Do what is right. Do what is right. Yes. Do what is right. So yes. So this is going to keep on increasing, because the youths are getting more aware of, okay, these guys are not doing what
Yeah.
is right. So I hope when the time is ours, we are going to do what is right. and also the concerns of climate. I actually believe it's a very big concern, because in Nigeria currently the farmers are crying out because there's limited rainfall, and this is the peak. This is when we are supposed to experience the peak rainfall in Nigeria, you know, and it's not been experienced. So it's something that is a critical concern. So I believe in 10 years' time, if maybe it's our turn to manage the resources of our countries or the continents, we are not going to be like
Yeah,
our
I
fathers
so
and our
much love that
forefathers, where
that
our
talk. But
junior
my
ones will be
mind is, I
complaining.
believe certainly we are going to take over, because look at us right now. Look at Pauline, she's a sign. Look at you, you're going, just in transit to go talk with the governor, and I think we're in the right move, in the right direction. So it's not just I think, I believe that our time will come, and we just pray that we do better. I hope we are going to do better and try our best for the continent. And that being said, I want to appreciate both of you. I know you guys are very busy people. I know you guys are big. I do not take that for granted. I appreciate you for taking your time to come for this. And big shout out to your sister behind the screen there. I can sense she's prompting you. Oh, I don't know what she's doing behind there, but she's actually getting your attention. Big shout
Yeah.
out to her. And Alamin, big shout out to those driving your cars and trying to slow. I know they turned down the music in that car for you to do this program.
Yeah.
So maybe after this you can go back to your jam and all. So
Yes.
but I just want to
Yes.
say thank you so much. I appreciate it. Oh, what's your dog's name?
Carmen.
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 Good.
Yeah, she's also taking my attention.
Okay.
What to say
Good,
hi
good.
every time she hears me talking to people, she's like, "Who's there?"
Big
Ah,
shout
I
out.
see.
Hello, Carmen. So, like, I appreciate you guys, and we will keep fighting. We'll keep, rending our voice. We'll keep pushing the narrative positively. We'll keep, trying our best and all. And I believe that fortune will smile on us someday, and maybe on a bigger platform. Then, Pauline, maybe we're going to meet at a place where, I don't know, you'll be the Prime Minister of Brazil,
Oh
and
my god.
I. Yeah, you don't see it now, but it's good. It's good. It could happen.
Hopefully.
So thank you so much. Do you have any closing statement, and we just call it a wrap?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
we should just
We
keep
won't
pushing,
stop. We won't stop.
keep being
That's the
optimistic.
bottom
Yeah.
line. We won't stop.
Simple
Pauline,
as
out
that.
of curiosity,
Yeah.
I had a statement, and I
Yeah.
want to confirm from you first time. Is it true there's no ugly lady in Brazil?
Yes, it's true.
Okay. Alamin, we have to add Brazil to our.
Ooh,
Yeah,
okay.
we have to go to Sao Paulo.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
All
Maybe
right. Thank you
Sao
very much. And
Paulo.
this is
We'll
me
go to
saying
Sao
bye to
Paulo.
you guys. Please do have a lovely week ahead of you.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Bye.
Cheers.
It was really
Bye.
nice.
All
Thank you
right.
for doing this. It was great.
No, thank you.
Bye.
Thank you so
Bye,
much.
Bye.
I appreciate
Pauline.
it. Yeah.
Bye.